Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to today's SERIGO webinar. Today's theme is Alternative Economic Models for Service Provision in Rural Areas. I'm Alexandria Gill, and I'm a policy expert at ADO, the European Association for Innovation in Local Development. And I'll be moderating the event today. Today's webinar is part of the EU-funded SERIGO project, in which we are focusing on researching and testing social innovations that fight social exclusion in rural areas. This specific webinar is organized as part of a series of events and actions and work that we are doing as part of our community of practice in the SERIGO project. And we are very happy to have you here today this morning. As we all know, rural areas across Europe face complex challenges, demographic shifts, economic restructuring, service accessibility, and so on. These are only a few. And basically today we are exploring innovative economic models that empower communities to strengthen rural resilience and social inclusion. I will invite my colleague to put the agenda on the screen now. Today, you will hear from policy experts and researchers and practitioners about how the social and solidarity economy, or SSE, models can actually offer sustainable and community-driven and actually economically viable solutions. We will be exploring key SERIGO research findings. We'll be exploring policy frameworks, but also very inspiring case studies that really highlight practical and scalable approaches. So we truly encourage you to engage. Please ask questions, share your experiences in the chat, or after a presentation, you'll be given the opportunity to speak. Maybe seeing this agenda right now, there are some things that pop up in your head or expectations that pop up in your head. So I invite you to put one or two words in the chat if you feel like it about what your expectations are for today, or what something you'd like to learn. I need to say that while you do this, that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared. And as I said, please put your questions in the chat or raise your hand at the end of presentations. And without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker. I welcome here Francisco Martinez, a senior expert at the DIESIS Network. DIESIS Network is the European Network for Social Economy, but also the coordinator of the Rural Pact Social Economy Group. And Francisco will now set the scene for us this morning by telling us about EU networks, but also policies and funding streams that support the social economy in rural areas. Francisco, the floor and the screen is yours.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I am Francisco Martinez from DIESIS Network. Happy to be here. And today I want to speak about how powerful is the social economy and in the rural resilient. So what in the rural social economy, we arrive from community-owned energy cooperatives to agricultural social enterprise that are fighting against the mafia. So it's a way to creation and development at the same time in a very delicate area that is the rural area. So it's a very powerful. What this presentation, what you do today, is to give you instruments, to give you also a view about how the social economy can help in the rural development and how can be also funded by the European Commission. Why is urgent? We have a democratic crisis, so the 137 million of Europeans, they are in experiencing decline and mainly in the rural areas. Then we have the situation about that there is no service. There is no in the rural area. It's difficult to find service, and then some actors that are in the rural area, they are very important. I make an example. I will interrupt myself sometimes to give you an example. I speak, for example, in Italy, we have the situation of there is a rural area and there is only a farm. The farm become everything around the community. So become a school, become a pharmacy, become a place where the old people can also stay. So it's innovation. We are speaking now about social farming. So it's a way to use what is already in the rural area to give more service. But this had to be together with the situation about, for example, a digital divide. So there is no access to digital tools in the rural area still. They really need, and this will give an important push to the rural area. For example, with the e-commerce, the farmer can reach the urban area or can show what they are doing in a real way, showing what they are doing and what is the value to grow the food in the rural area. Then there is the problem of the economic vulnerability and the climate impact. What is the social economy? What are the problem solutions? So there is a resilient, the solidarity economy have a 2.8 million of social economy entities in Europe, and is employing more than 13.6 million of people. Is resilient because after all the crises, they have been one of the sectors that have been demonstrating that have been growing even in a crisis moment. The job creation that I say before, and then because it's something that is owned by the community, is resilient. I will say it's a different time the word of resilient, because if something is from the community, the community is strong, so it's difficult that can be destroyed or go in difficult when there is a crisis moment. The EU policy framework, this is the momentum. We have the social action plan that is delivering 2.5 billion in the social economy. We have the target support regions, so 38 European social economy regions are receiving target support. Then we have the social economy mission, so are the mission that are developing what is in the economic area. They are analyzing what they did, and then the rural pack, the rural vision, rural pack that is creating this amazing network and platform that can put everybody together to discuss about that. If we speak about financial support, we have the ESF funding, so 88 million. Then in the final of the presentation, you have all the link if you want to have more information about that. I will not go because I have not so much time with everything. But we have the ADF support, the leader support, and then the EU Invest contribution. And this, for example, is a story, so an example of La Exclusiva that they get funding in order to create her cooperative in 24 villages and creating 12 jobs in Spain. So we'll continue. So what I said before, so why it's important? Because it's resilient, because it's hybrid, so we can create a combination between private and public. I make you an example about the food the local food procurement. That is that the school are taking the food from the local farmer. This is something that is leveraging, is giving a lot of resilience to the rural area because it's the economy that is helping to the economy at the rural level. And then we have the local embeddedness and the digital transformation and the cross collaboration between the different sectors. With the networking, so we need to build a stronger community. So the SE network is one of the network that for 25 years we have 50 members that we are developing project for the social economy. There are the thematic group and the social economy that are more than 120 members, like Reves, and then we have the European Social Economy Region that launched by the European Commission with more than 100 participants. And then we have Social Economy Europe, that is the big network that is also helping to develop the social economy. I'm going to give you some example about, for example, this is the ESIS, how the rural rice is giving restoration, giving energy to the community. So this is a project that is giving initiative to empower more than 450 young and women in the six rural region and is creating green social enterprise and developing rural skill. In select in the rural and the sustainable rural supply chain, we are studying case studies in order to then become also example to develop the rural the social economy in other places. Another is for example Goel. This is important and it's really resilient because in a very difficult situation where the mafia is killing the people or not giving the opportunity to the economy, to the rural economy to develop, they take this problem and they become the problem become an opportunity because the orange and the mandarins and all the oil that is coming from this have double value because it's the value of because they grow organic and also because it's the value of the social value because they are helping the farmer to go away from the mafia and giving the right way and the right path and also the right price to pay the product. So this is very interesting. Then there is it's not here. We have also the biodistretto. So the idea is to create in a rural area with farmers, with local communities, the possibility to develop an area that is have organic view. And the last one is the whole village model that is about how a community can be together and together they become a tourist attraction, but all the community is working for these projects. So they have a problem of, okay, tourist income. So they make a cooperative and they are running a model that everybody is doing something in the for incoming, and they present themselves as a whole village for tourists. This is very interesting for the all these links are in the final of the presentation. So call to action, a step forward, mainstream social economy, create a rural fund, local contact points and data observatory that built in the existing EU rural observatory that is already. So these are some of the points that I am not going detail that we really go a step forward in order to continue developing the rural economy. So what I say, imagine a rural economy in 2030 that has at least one social economy entity in every community. The young people choose to stay and innovate social enterprise communities. Digital social innovation connect the remote areas, and the community-owned renewable energy achieve the energy of the sovereignty, and the social economy is recognized as the backbone of the rural resilience. So these are the vision that we have for the thriving rural economy. So please contact me and make me any question about what I say. I'm here happy to share information.
Thank you so much, Francisco. I will now ask my colleagues if there are some questions from the chat, or if anyone wants to raise their hand.
No question in the chat yet. Perhaps if anybody also wants to comment, raise hands, take the floor to make any remark. We will have more time also later. It is early in the morning.
Oh, there is one hand raised. Poonam, yes, please.
Hi, thank you so much for this very nice presentation. I was just concerned because where I come from, in the sense from the academic field, we think that mainstreaming is actually a way in which we kill alternatives. So this is the problem of most of the dominant models, that in the process of mainstreaming, they actually destroy other alternatives. So I would think that rather than mainstreaming, it would be supporting more and more diverse initiatives of social economy, but also other alternative models, rather than just mainstreaming one vision. So what do you have to say on this?
Yeah, this is a model. This is a model of mainstreaming. So what we want to do is to go to in different sectors of the economy, and to put it with the social economy in the rural area. So this is how we can develop, taking the different sector and to give the opportunity in each economic sector to develop with a social economy view in the rural area.
Any other question? I have one, if there's nothing from the audience. Francisco, you were mentioning the importance of EU policies and funding streams in particular. In your experience, what are the concrete steps that small local authorities or local groups or organizations can take to better access, to better leverage those funding opportunities?
So thank you for the question, because it's really important to build the resilience at the rural level also, that the local and regional authorities they can do. I will say, for example, to increase because they have, for example, in the rural area we have the agricultural funds, so all the communal economic for the farming, and those are important politics that can be also modified by the regional, giving more importance for to the social economy. So it's important that in the rural development program they include more and more always social economy because it's part of the farming. Like I said before, with the multifunctionality of the farm. The farm is not only production. The farm is difficult to arrive at competitiveness in this global level. The farm should be multi-sector, and the politic of for the rural development program will need focus about that. Then there is the way also to build the skill of the people in the rural area to access to the funding, so to write the proposal, to and start to apply for the different funding that I saw before. So I will say this kind of a step that the local authority that can do, and then the last one should be more collaboration between private and authorities, like I said before, the food procurement, the local food procurement that have really important, but it's not only the food, it's everything. So the money has to stay on the rural area and not to go to buy something else outside of the community.
Thank you so much. Yes, these are very, very important points to mention, especially the role of indeed local and regional authorities to leverage themselves the EU frameworks, the EU policies, and the funding streams. Is there any last small question or remark before we move on to the second phase of today? I'm turning to Patricia to see if there is anything in the chat.
So we just have one remark from one of the participants with that is mentioning one of the models that you presented, Francisco, this whole village, that it was found that it can be a helpful particular model to be replicated in other areas. We were sharing some information. I know that the ESIS has done some case studies about it, right? So I don't know if you also want to say a bit more, or otherwise, if we don't have enough time, you can also include in the chat.
Yeah, I will put the chat and then the case study that we create about that. I'm sure it's something that we can replicate. It's a very strong model.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Francisco, for this morning. And please stay with us. There'll be more interactions coming up. All right, without further ado, we'll now move on to the part of our webinar where we give you a bit of a glimpse into our SERIGO work, our project research work. And this session is titled Understanding Alternative Economic Models, Key Insights from the SERIGO Research. In this session, we will learn from our first year findings, offering you insights into how alternative economic models function in rural areas, and their role in enhancing inclusion and resilience. For that, I am pleased to welcome my three colleagues, our three speakers, Somaye Latifi from the Federal Institute of Agricultural Economics, Rural and Mountain Research, BAB, in Austria. We also have Poonam Pandey, who is a researcher at the University of Vigo in Spain. And we have Cristina Daiatore, a researcher at the URAC Research in Italy. Welcome again, ladies. And well, I'll first give you the floor, Somaye, who you will present SERIGO's conceptual framework on enhancing social inclusion via the social and solidarity economy. So thank you, and Somaye, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Can I share my slide?
Yes, please.
You can see now.
Yes, we can go in full mode.
Full screen, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Somaye Latifi from Federal Institute of Agricultural Economic, Rural and Mountain Research. Today, I'm going to give you a brief overview of SERIGO's conceptual framework. As you know, the SERIGO aims to enhance social inclusion, good life, and resilience of vulnerable groups in European rural areas through social and solidarity economy and social innovation. Based on this aim, our conceptual framework consists of 3 main parts: challenges, solution and pathway, and visions. Vulnerability and social exclusion are the main challenges that SERIGO aims to address them. Vulnerability refers to the inability of individual and community to withstand adverse impact from multiple stressors. And social exclusion is defined as a state of unequal access to resources, rights, opportunities, and also capability. Based on the literature, they have a different dimensions such as cultural, digital, political, temporal, economic, social, and spatial dimension. They can appear at the different level. At the individual level, we have a vulnerable and excluded people, such as women, older people, disabled people, and other groups. At the community level, we have a peripheral rural communities. These two challenges, vulnerability and exclusion, are interdependent and can reinforce each other and increase inequality, especially in rural area where there is limited access to opportunity and resources. Addressing these challenges needs innovative solution like social and solidarity economy that includes both solidarity economy and social economy and covers different forms of initiatives. Solidarity economy includes informal and formal initiatives that aim to transfer economic and societies for more solidarity and social inclusion. On the other hand, we have social economy that includes formal initiatives that put people before capital, and they are based on democratic and participatory governance. The main aspect or the main part of the social and solidarity economy is its connection with social innovation, which develop new and effective solutions to address social and environmental needs, and as you know, can be a service, product, and relationship with stakeholders. Social and solidarity economy can act as an initiator and implementer of social innovation, and in other words, they can complete each other, and by increasing social capital at the collective level or at the community, they can not only can provide situation for its own regeneration, but also create opportunity for community development. Also, at the both level, at the individual level and collective level, they can, by increasing capabilities, they can provide resources and also agency for empowerment of disabled, vulnerable group and also vulnerable communities. As I mentioned, SERIGO's vision is to enhance social inclusion and also improve quality of life and foster resilience and sustainability in rural areas. All of these visions are deeply interconnected. For example, by increasing social inclusion, we can impact on the good life and increase the ability of the individual and community to cope with difficult situations, and also resilience can support sustainability by ensuring the long-term adaptation to social, economic, and environmental challenges. These visions, all of these visions are foundation for social justice and also spatial justice, and it would be easy to achieve justice in rural community by achieving these visions. In this slide, you can see the initial integrated conceptual framework of SERIGO that combine different theories and concepts from diverse disciplines to show how social and solidarity economy and social innovation through community development and empowerment can tackle vulnerability and social exclusion at the individual level and also at the community level to achieve the vision of social inclusion, good life, resilience, and sustainability, and the heart of this vision, social and spatial justice. This framework supports planning and conducting empirical research of SERIGO. And here I should mention that this framework will be revised based on continuous literature review that our partner doing each year. And also at the end of the project, this initial framework can be validated and also refined based on the case studies results and pilot results. I tried to keep my presentation short because of the limited time, but if you are interested to know more about this topic and also this conceptual framework, you can find it on SERIGO's website. Thank you for your attention, and feel free to ask your question and also share your comment. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Somaya. You were exactly on time.
Yeah.
Well done.
I tried too much.
Perfect. Yeah, it's perfect. I want to open the floor for maybe one question or remark now, and then we'll move on to the second panelist, and there'll be time for more questions after we've gone through all the panel members. But if there is something right now that would someone like to react about or react on or share? Patricia, I'm turning to you again because I don't see the chat. But...
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I think we have some that were actually put, I think, for Francisco, not for this one, but I think that it can perhaps be connected. I don't know if this now is the right moment or after the three, let's say, research-related presentation, because there was an interesting question, a difficult one from Nicolas about indicators. So how we define effective indicators to measure success in rural areas. We also need to understand perhaps what is success. I don't know if this is something in terms of indicators that that you have been considering when it comes to the development of the conceptual framework, Somaya, or if we want to have a debate about it with all the research team.
Yeah, our conceptual framework covers different concepts and theory, but I think the work package 2, based on this conceptual framework, defined the main guideline for empirical research of this project. Yeah. And for indicator in conceptual framework, we just focus on the concept and the relationship between these diverse concepts to show the pathway that social and solidarity economy can create a situation for achieving social inclusion, resilience, sustainability, and also resilience. Yeah.
Thank you, Somaya. Christina, I think you wanted to react.
Yeah, even if it's not yet my turn, but I may say something about that. Thank you for the question. There are already in place some rural proofing, which are in place in some European countries where indicators are proposed for what measuring success. We have revised them, so reviewed them in the policy related tasks of SERIGO, but we are doing that in the course of the project. And while in the empirical part of the project, we are grounding on a qualitative approach, so which means rather than coming up with quantitative indicators, but then I will turn to Poonam, maybe for precising my reply. The aim is to gather from the ground, so using a bottom-up approach in the way data are analyzed and information is produced and knowledge is produced. So the idea is to come up towards the end of the empirical part in the case studies that I will present later with criteria for measuring what success or what impact is by social economy in rural areas in tackling rural vulnerabilities. Don't know, Poonam, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. At this moment, we are looking at qualitative ways of understanding what a good life or well-being looks like in rural areas. So there are no, we are not going for universal measures because all rural areas are different. All the needs in different areas are different, and it is for the people to decide what they think is a good indicator of well-being rather than taking a top-down creating a top-down measure and then seeing every area through that lens.
And I should mention that it's hard to measure this concept, this social concept, based on the qualitative method. We want to understand how we achieve these visions, such as social inclusion. It's hard to measure them with data, and in the community, we should see and understand this concept. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, ladies. And it's too tempting for me not to say this as we're talking about impact, but we are organizing on the 8th of May a hybrid workshop on measuring impact of social innovations in rural areas. I was going to mention it at the end of this meeting, but it was a bit too tempting to mention it now as well. You are all invited to join. Well, Poonam, you had the floor. I'll give you back the floor as you will now present to us a mapping of the economic models that we have identified so far. Thank you, Poonam. You have the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I will just switch to the, yeah, can you see my slides?
We can, yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, my presentation is actually oriented towards like going back and forth between theory and practice, and also trying to understand why we are here, why we are trying to look into alternative economic models. So the idea is basically to give you like a walk between theory and empirics. So I would start with like looking at the background, the vision and violence of what is happening with dominant economic models now. And then I will also look at why we are looking at alternative economic models and what do European policies have to do around this. And also a little bit about what are different kinds, other than social and solidarity economy, what are other different kinds of alternative economic models? What is their trajectory, focus, and institutionalization? And very briefly then, I will go into our study that we did, a mapping exercise of different social and solidarity economy initiatives across Europe in order to understand how do they define rural vulnerabilities and in what ways are they looking for the remediation to these challenges and vulnerabilities. And I will end with a concluding remark. So to begin with, I mean, it's not that it's a surprising thing, but it's always important to keep contextualizing ourselves where we are coming from. Also, because to not get carried away with these models. So there is a challenge that is created by dominant economic models, and we cannot counter these challenges by becoming these models. So we have to keep that in mind. So what I mean by dominant economic models are these visions that are associated with, for example, too much focused on economic growth, and that will eventually lead to social development or social growth, or the ideas around GDP. So, for example, if you improve GDP, everything will become. So, the problem with the dominant economic models is, in the systems in which we are living today, is that there is a belief in an infinite economic growth, so that something could be changed and we can keep continuing growing with the pace with which we are growing. There is also an imagination of linearity of progress and growth. So you have to leave the primary sector because, like agriculture, because these are they are not the developed ideals of progress. And there is also the middle way, which is manufacturing. And then eventually, in order to reach the most developed status, you have to focus on research and development and areas like space research or something. So this is another belief in this, that there's a linear progress path and everybody has to follow this in order to to achieve the level of progress and growth. And the third belief is that if we have enough economic growth, it will also trickle down to social development and social well-being and well-being for all. But these are supposedly, as you can see in the third picture, are problematic because the trickle down doesn't happen in a very democratic and equal way. It is a very unequal process, and as a result, a lot of violence is part of these visions of dominant economic models. One of this is the social justice issue. There is this picture that shows global waste flows that is also associated to health concerns in the global south, but many other challenges also within Europe in the periphery and rural areas. There are rising inequalities and also lack to access to basic services. The other dimension of the violence of these dominant visions is the environmental sustainability challenge. So there is a huge loss of biodiversity that we are going through. There's a lot of ecological damage that we all know about, and also climate change. What happens is that in areas such as rural and peripheral regions, there is an intersectionality of challenges created by the dominant visions, because these things get concentrated depending on the distance, the kind of people, the jobs people do, or a general neglect that has resulted from this understanding that there is a linearity of economic growth. So all these challenges become concentrated in rural areas because of the intersectionality that operates in allocating resources, but also engagement with marginal areas. So as a result of these twin challenges that have emerged, the social justice and economic growth, social justice and environmental sustainability challenges, there is an ongoing debate and discussion also for a very, very long time about how to deal with this, how to think about alternatives to the dominant economic models. And most of the alternative economic models are centered around these twin goals of balancing that there is that social justice concerns are taken into account, and also environmental sustainability becomes central to economic organizing. And this is a model that was developed by the economist Kate Raworth. Although this model came later, there are alternative economic models that were already working around this for centuries. Recently, this is not just happening in societies, in social spaces, and in academic circles, but also economic. The EU policy has also started to realize that we have to think beyond these dominant economic models, beyond growth-centric economic growth-centric economic models, and they have come up with different ideas such as Beyond Growth conference that happened 2 years ago. Then there is also the social economy action plan, and also there's a lot of focus on building the well-being economy alliance in different countries. As I said before, there have been different imaginations of alternative economic models that has been going on for a very long time. It's separated along. It's like the source of origin. So there are initiatives that emerged in social sectors, in environmental movements, in academic circles, but also in policies. And most of them are oriented around some balance of trying to find some balance of economic sustainability and social justice. I'm here going to focus on 4 that are because that are relevant in terms of where they emerge from. So, for example, from the global south, there is this idea of buen vivir, and also many other around that emerged as indigenous concept, but then also regained importance against the extractive practices of industries. And what they focus is an emphasis on solidarity for good life. And now these buen vivir, for example, has been incorporated in some of the policies in South America. And then there is this post-growth and degrowth discourse that primarily known to be emerging in 1970s in Europe. and it focuses on planned reduction in energy and resource use to support these twin goals of social justice and economic environmental sustainability. And the debate has been mostly centered around academics, but also some activist circles. Then there is social and solidarity economy. We heard from Somaya about it. And this is mostly associated to worker cooperatives and community organizations. And it again also talked about the challenge of industrialization and the social issues that it led to. Now there is this recently emerging concept also very much popular in the policy circles, which is called as Well-being Economy Alliance, and they are centered around human and environmental well-being and keeping it at the heart of policy making. And like I said, there are many government and international organizations that are part of these alliances. So let's quickly go to the work that we did in SERIGO. So we looked at these different models, and I mean, as we different models of economic organization, alternative models, and we selected social and solidarity economy as a broader umbrella that would guide us to look at different initiatives across Europe. So it is a web-based study, and we also got input from our partners. We collected diverse initiatives that are happening in the alternative economic domain in rural areas, and we tried to understand how these so we focus more on diversity than number, and we try to understand how these initiatives are understanding rural challenges and what kind of interventions that they have proposed. So we clubbed them together, different initiatives, into 26 different types of rural challenges that ranges from agricultural de-skilling, digital technological disparity, economic isolation, financialization of rural land, global crop commodification, rural depopulation, nature cultural disconnect, producer consumer disconnect, and loss of rural identity. So there are many of these challenges that these people have defined on their websites. And at the same time, along in parallel, they have also defined what kind of interventions that they are engaging in. So we found that 20 different types of social economy interventions these people have proposed or are working on. That includes building caring and resilient networks, alternative economic models, agroecology-led rural development, nature cultural reconnection, bringing new information systems, vulnerable group empowerment. So this is how we clubbed these things together. And then we further refined them and clubbed together. So we found that the way social economy initiatives are understanding rural challenges are organized around 3 dominant lines. One is the exploitation that has happened in rural areas by dominant agri-food regimes, because initially rural areas were focused predominantly on agri-food and related sectors. And then joined to this, as a secondary effect, there is also lack of infrastructure, opportunities, and care network that has resulted in rural areas, and also a loss of rural dignity and identity. And the same goes for social solidarity interventions. These interventions are focused on rural revitalization, on agroecology, but also cultural reinvigoration and finding new economic arrangements to address the challenges, and also around building enabling infrastructures and care networks and ensuring inclusion and dignity in rural life. So to conclude, or rather summarize, the economic growth orientation in our societies has resulted in grave ecological and social justice challenges, so the dominant models. And these challenges, when seen through an intersectional lens of vulnerability, become particularly concentrated and detrimental in rural and marginal areas. In order to address these challenges, diverse economic models have emerged throughout history for a very, very long time. These models have different trajectories of emergence and institutionalization, different primary focuses, and varied ways of framing the problems and solutions. However, all these models converge on one core theme, that is people and planet before profit. Our analysis of diverse SSE initiatives across Europe reveal that rural areas suffer from direct and indirect impacts of challenges posed by economic growth-centric orientation. The direct impacts involve exploitation of rural communities by profit-centric interventions, such as the dominant agri-food regime, and the indirect impacts involve neglect of rural areas, leading to a vicious cycle of lack of infrastructures and opportunities, and eventually loss of rural identity and dignity. And to conclude, to imagine and invigorate rural areas, SSE initiatives predominantly rely on alternative economic models that focus on new kinds of economic and social arrangements that emphasize on care, solidarity, sharing, relationality, and mutual respect over profit maximization. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poonam. I'm conscious of time, so I would like still to take 2 minutes to take one question before we move on to you, Christina. Maybe one quick question from the chat and one quick answer if possible, so that Christina has ample time as well. But Patricia, is there something? I'm sure there is.
Well, there was more a bit of exchange in the chat, and actually I saw that Christina, you replied to this question that was posed before by Rosanna about the lack of capital that happens in rural areas due to emigration, how to turn this, and if an external input can be beneficial. You were already, Christina, elaborated on how some research have proved that the support across different regions, across different rural areas, can be positive to foster this social innovation from one place to another. I would imagine that we would need to consider that it needs to be place-based. But I don't know if you, Poonam, or Christina wants to say something else about this, but you already replied in the chat.
Okay, in that case, then we will have a reader in the chat. Or Poonam, do you want to react?
No, I'm still trying to understand this question. About immigration. Okay, social capital due to
Yes, it's
immigration.
the social capital that is led due to the migration of people from rural areas, so rural population. If we are to tackle this, how can we proceed, and whether an external input from other actors can be beneficial or not?
Yeah, I mean,
how?
this is for us too early to respond to this question, because we are still trying to understand through our case studies what could be a mechanism. But as far as I've understood through the studies that we have done so far, there are many external input, definitely different ways of external input. So also in the previous speaker said about the hybrid networks, right? So they are extremely useful in rebuilding different kinds of social capital. So but also, I mean, it's very important that the local and the internal or the external, they work together rather than one predominating the other. As the previous speaker said, that the hybrid models are more efficient. And as far as I've seen, that there are many initiatives that are happening along these lines, where people are trying to build new imaginations of what a rural area looks like that is compatible to external as well as internal actors.
Thank you so much, Poonam. I will now give the floor to you, Christina. You will tell us a bit more about the SSE initiatives that are under study in the SERIGO project. The floor is yours, Christina.
Thank you. I hope you can see my presentation.
We can.
Yes. Okay. So also hello from me. I'm Cristina Dalla Torre, and today we present you these insights from the work we have done so far in work package 3 related to case studies. And we will together explore economic challenges, objectives, and intervention strategies by alternative economic models. And so what I'm presenting today bases on a working document we have elaborated with the help of case study teams, the researchers involved, about the process of refinement of the case studies. And this presentation has been done together with colleagues Marzia Bona and Ida Motteran. Few notes before starting. As said by previous colleagues, in SERIGO, we examine how social and solidarity economy can address rural vulnerabilities. And in SERIGO, we do this also partly. So one of the parts in which SERIGO articulates is a case study approach to identify and investigate relevant and diverse initiatives of social and solidarity economy. And a disclaimer here to be done is that a case study is one of the many ways in which we can look at initiatives. So there is a certain degree of influence of subjectivity by the researcher in taking one perspective than another, because these initiatives are very complex, have multiple aspects to be investigated. So when we design a case study, we decide on what aspect we want to look for. Of course, we have common shared guidelines to do this, but there is a certain degree of subjectivity. This is in every research based on case studies and in general in research. But I wanted to make this clear. Some methodological notes is that so there are 24 cases that have been identified and selected by SERIGO colleagues in 13 countries, and you can see them pinpointed in yellow in the map across all Europe. And in the process of refining case studies by getting to know more about the context, by doing further research, and by getting to know the stakeholders in the context, we have refined the case studies according to decide at what scale we are looking at the initiative, whether it's very local, very micro in the processes of the social initiative, or more how the initiative relates to the context, or more the policy context. So, and in doing that, in the process of refining, we have used different lenses that help us to group case studies according to some criteria that help us to group together certain case studies according to different criteria to help to navigate the diversity that there is, thank God, in social solidarity economy initiatives. And today's focus, we focus on economic aspects. And so as Poonam has preceded me in defining what is the economy, so I refer to a broader definition of economy. So in terms of how goods and resources are cared for and distributed to determine well-being, good life, buen vivir for all. And when I say all, it opens a Pandora pot because when we refer to all, we are really, what we put in the all is really important. Who we are involving, who we are not involving, who is getting excluded, who doesn't have a voice in the say. And today I will present you some insights about how the initiatives, so what are the alternative economic models on which the initiatives based on to provide services. And so I will get through directly to the insights. So first of all, I would like to draw attention on the challenges that are addressed and by the initiatives, so that motivate the existing or that trigger the emergence of such initiatives. We have categorized these challenges in two types, also in coherence with the framework of SERIGO presented by Somaya. So one type refers to elements that create disadvantage for at the territorial level, so for certain rural areas and sectors more respect to others. So looking at what rural areas and sectors are disadvantaged, are more rural than others, are more so disadvantaged and more vulnerable than others. While on the other side, we had looked at what elements create disadvantage in terms of discrimination, oppression for certain individuals and groups, according to certain characteristics they have, and how these characteristics interrelate with the policies and with the context that they are in, and determine their systemic exclusion. So with what concerns challenges for at territorial level or at sectoral level is the lack of access to service, lack of access to local food due to the dependence on external inputs and external markets and global markets, access to land and housing because they become too expensive, or because there are no means to refurbish them, or because they are too degraded for land, for what concerns land, exposure to climate risks, biodiversity loss, and lack of employment due to processes of delocalization, mechanization, and consequent loss of crafts. Looking at what makes individuals and groups vulnerable is forms of systemic exclusion and oppression, for example, racialization, whiteness, ableism, heteronormativity, classism, patriarchy, machoism, and also the interconnection, so the intersection of those mechanisms. An assumption we base on is that economic challenges, as well as other challenges, are produced by certain values, narratives, which policies ground on. So we would like to draw this attention on the responsibility of policies in determining such contexts. To tackle such challenges, initiatives have different objectives, which are also interconnected. And so here we have tried to synthesize and generalize from the different objectives of each initiatives to find out 4 main objectives, but I'm happy to receive feedback for more. So initiatives aim to shorten supply and production chains by connecting customers directly with service providers or product providers. So to create local value chains that ensure more quality of the product, more accountability, and also more on the offer side, more power for deciding the production process and the price. Improve product and service quality by dignifying rural and ecological and artisanal knowledge. So to reverse the trend of loss of crafts and loss of ecological knowledge, one is really to valorize them, to make visible what is the value of those resources when we are producing something. Because in rural areas, to the connectedness between the human and the context and the nature, people have developed all throughout the centuries local ecological knowledge and practices and crafts that enable them to survive and coexist in such areas. So it is important to valorize them. One other object is to promote economic diversification, alternative production and distribution model. Differently from a model of monoculture or intensification or hyper-specialization, social economic initiatives, they ground on local ecological knowledge and craftsmanship, but they develop different pillars on which they sustain in order to reduce the economic risks through diversifying. And furthermore, the overarching aim is to create empowering opportunities and and respectful opportunities for both for humans and for nature. How do they do that concretely? So not so concretely, but what are the intervention strategies they ground on? These are some that we have identified so far. So often social and solidarity initiatives cooperate across sectors and across organizations for providing in service and products. They develop housing support as a basic right that without that people cannot have a good life. So as a fundamental right, they develop cross-sector activities combining so activities that combine, for example, agriculture together with health or together with social inclusion. So putting together social aspects with environmental aspects to create new products and services, making sense of what is in the place. And they create circular processes so that the byproduct or the waste of a process become the resource for the next process. So these were some insights so far, synthesized from the process of refinement of the case studies. Now what is next? So we have started this year with research work field work in the case studies. So the 13 teams have started to collect data, generate data, to study the characteristics, the proper functioning, and the impact of these initiatives. And we are doing that, adopting an approach that looks at the research subjectivity, considers that asks critical questions for setting the boundaries of the research, because when we research something, we always decide what to bring in and what to leave out. So also asking ourselves, what are we studying? Why are we studying that? Who are we leaving outside? And who are we taking in, and how we are taking in stakeholders? And considering the intersection of social factors. So how different social factors intersect to characterize the case study. And we concretely use enabling methods that enable groups and stakeholders with different capabilities to express themselves. There are people who prefer to express themselves through visual, or through voice, or through writing, or through physically walking in a context. So we are going to experiment with those enabling methods such as eco-social mapping, photo voice, as such. And you can see here some pictures from actually a training that we have done yesterday with an expert on enabling methods. So to really learn how to adapt such methods in the context of SERIGO. And a final word that really was included in the working document I'm referring to is a principle that we always turn to about humility, so that the practice of research is not just a passive act of observing and studying what is out there, but it's an active word-making process. So we have responsibility as researchers. And we have to acknowledge the contingencies and the fragilities of our world. And we have to cultivate the practice of reflexivity, humility, and care that eventually empowers our research as collective world-making endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cristina. As we are running a little bit behind on time, I suggest that we move any discussion, debate, reactions to the chat so we can give ample time to our next panelists. But thank you again to Somaye, Poonam, and Cristina And we will now move on to our second panel. Without further ado, we had 3 ladies, and now we have 3 gentlemen joining us who will share some inspiration, some real-life good practices of alternative economic models. So for that, I welcome Christian Borg, co-founder of Merill Rural Network Malta, Dario Ferraro, from Project Development Manager at Gen Europe, and Brian Smith from Social Farming Ireland. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. And I will straight on give you the floor, Christian, to present to us your work in Malta. The floor and the screen is yours. We cannot hear you yet, Christian. I think you are muted.
Is this better? Hello?
It's better, and we can see your screen.
Okay. You can see the presentation as well?
Yes.
That's great. Okay, so thank you very much for this presentation so far. It's been so great to see and hear all that you're doing at SERIGO. I'm trying to fit in the screen at the moment. Just give me a second. Okay. Okay, here we go. So excited to be here. Literally, it's a pleasure to present something from the tiny island of Malta. I want to frame what we do in the case of where we come from. Malta is a very small island, a country, a group of islands in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. And it's very important to frame it in the context of Europe and the world, because the whole islands are 316 kilometers squared. And that makes it, as a country, a much smaller country than most cities around Europe. So we need to frame everything in this perspective and realize that there are different realities around Europe when we talk about rural agriculture, vulnerabilities, and so on. Okay, so that full disclosure there, we can start with the presentation. What is the Merill Rural Network? It's a social enterprise. In Malta, social enterprises are yet to be regulated properly. So we call it a de facto social enterprise, and we've been around for the past 15 years or so. It's still a small social enterprise within a small country. And our mission is to empower the rural community by envisioning a circular sustainable economy involving mostly rural tourism and agriculture and artisanal crafts. I'm going through these slides a bit quickly because, as if we don't have enough challenges around us in the world, we have this challenge of presenting a 15-year social enterprise within a couple of minutes. So this is the most important thing that we ask in our enterprise. You might know about the golden circle, the why, the how, the what. So for us, as for many, if not all of the participants here in this webinar, the why is very important and needs to be at the center of everything. So for us, it's tourism or over tourism in a small country. We have something like 600 moving into 700,000 inhabitants on this small rock, and we attract, which sounds like a good thing for dominant economy, we attract something like 3 million or more than 3 million tourists a year. So that is not exactly sustainable from the environmental and social point of view. So that was the main trigger for us why we wanted to do something of the sort. This is a quick storyline. We will share these presentations, right, Alex, afterwards. So I won't go through all of these, but it started very long ago now. In my mind, in 2010, my wife Janet and myself started this as an eco venture, walking tours, and it quickly evolved into a network, a rural network. The main reason is that Maltese rural areas, excuse me, Maltese rural areas are mainly owned, so to speak, by farmers or land managers or landowners, and we cannot just roam around the rural areas. So even though Malta and Gozo are mostly rural for EU standards, we still find, of course, there's little room to walk around freely in public spaces. So the rural network was forced. We started a social enterprise without really knowing what we were doing. We had to collaborate with farmers, with landowners, with managers, land managers, breeders, artisans, in order to access nice locations around Malta. And the main reason was that we wanted to show tourists what Malta has to offer beyond the regular tourism attractions. Social entrepreneurship wasn't in our mind. We were calling ecotourism. We wanted something more eco. Social entrepreneurship came afterwards. We have 4 pillars. The members, of course, are a big resource in our enterprise. We count something more than 30 farming and rural families. Rural tourism, of course, it's the backbone of what we do. The local products that the farmers, artisans, and members produce. So we then add value upon that, and it's a part. It's one of our pillars. And quite recently, in the last couple of years, education and internships has been a very important pillar for the organization as well. I call it organization, but it's not an NGO. We can get into that later. It's a social enterprise. It's a fully profit-making enterprise. So rural tourism, it's all about empowerment. It's all about sustaining identity, because the members, the farming members, the artisans, all maintain their own identity. We'll get into this as well later. It's about local products, as we mentioned. The shorter the supply chain, the better. But where do we remain as an enterprise? If we are always shortening the supply chain, where is the profit margin? That is the biggest challenge for a social enterprise, as different from a NGO or non-profit. This next pillar is the education, which proves to be very important in the past 5 years or so, where we are gaining additional resources from students, both local and from abroad, that they're helping us as a network and also the members, but we're also exchanging knowledge, and they're going back to their countries with some new ideas, and they're bringing also innovative ideas into the enterprise themselves. This is a visual that we created quite long ago. This here at the center is the social enterprise, and as spokes, we call it, of course, the hub and spoke model. It's like borrowed from different marketing and business models, from logistics mostly. The social enterprise is at the center, while the members are the spokes. And each member, as we mentioned, for example, the bakery, the beekeeper, a vineyard, they are all Individuals, of course, we keep them as we keep their identity very importantly separate from our name. It's not a cooperative model, but of course we allow people to cooperate in our own way. Cooperatives in island states like ours, it's not that we don't have co-ops, we have co-ops and we encourage more people to cooperate, but in most agricultural co-ops, it doesn't really work as it should be. So we came up through evolution with this model where we are at the center and we're trying, because it's a very difficult thing, to manage everyone's needs separately. They are then connected independently together. So it's a hybrid model because it's both centralized and decentralized. I'm moving on because time is passing. A couple of members there. We have 4 premises of alignment for members. This is more the how and the what we do, which may interest more the SERIGO research. Members need to operate a functioning bona fide farm or workshop. They need to promote 100% local whenever possible. They need to be committed to provide value added. And the last one, which is the trickiest, to show a propensity to long-term collaboration. It's win-win. But when it's win-win, it means that it's also give and take. And unfortunately, in collaboration, we all and everyone talk about how we need to collaborate, co-create. But many times it's very difficult to make it happen with this give and take mentality. I'll move very quickly to these. These are just a couple of success stories. There's Bella and Charlie there, a flagship collaboration of the Merill Rural Network. They've been around since almost day one. We've assisted them and they're assisting us. We'll get into this maybe later in the Q&A, in providing and creating and redeveloping a piece of land that was completely abandoned. And now they are thriving quite well in tourism services. But the most important thing for members in our network is that they don't focus on tourism, but they focus on what they are doing really well or what they should be doing, which is agriculture or artisanal crafts, usually bakeries as well. That is their main business and that is what they should keep on doing. Our job is to support them to diversify into tourism without commercializing their activities too much. This is a family in the south of Malta. They've been harvesting sea salt the traditional old way for literally hundreds of years. And they host guests, they make money, but it's not just about money, it's also about empowerment and showing also their children how valuable is what they're doing to tourists and also locals. And the last case study is this guy here, Antoine, who has also been in the network since almost day one. And he is a carpet and carpet weaver mostly. He's into the art of weaving, something that was dying, so to speak. But and from day one, we spoke to him and they said, you have to change the narrative. So you start talking about the future, not what's finishing. So that's practically about it. I think that was the quickest presentation ever of Merill. In your hands, Alex.
Thank you so much, Christian, and apologies for the time constraints.
No problems.
I will open the floor for one question, maybe to Christian, one reaction from the audience? Is there anything, any question? If not, I have one, of course, but
I have a question.
yes, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you for your very interesting presentation, Christian. My question would be, so the members are not are just member of the network of Merill. So how do you interact with them? And how do they commit to you?
Good question. Okay. So it's a long process. We're not talking about a technological or digital innovation app, which we're thinking about, and it has to be successful within 2-3 months. Otherwise, you're done. This is a years-long process. With each and every member, we nurture a relationship. The relationship is the key word. We assimilate this literally with a family. You have to build trust, you have to build loyalty, and it's not that we have the perfect formula. It's very difficult for us to keep in touch with everyone the way that we want to, but the network and the commercial side of the network is growing, so that allows us to invest in more people, and then yes, we can go. It's literally calling them up. Malta being small, we have this very good advantage that we can just walk or grab the car, and in 15-20 minutes you're in any part of the island. Of course, bar the traffic. But that's how we communicate. We literally go and meet everyone in person, and then we also help them with social media. So it's a mix of in person and over the phone and calling them. And sometimes they also have access to modern technology. Even elderly people and members, we're seeing that they're picking up messaging systems, so that's helping a lot. I don't know if that answered your question.
Thank you, Christian. I suggest that we can continue the conversation in the chat. Christian, monitor the chat. There might be other questions coming up. And I would like to now give the floor to Dario Ferraro from Gen Europe, who is going to present us a model of inclusive housing and community-led living. Dario, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I hope you can hear me and see my screen.
We can, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, that's amazing. So, yeah, thank you everybody. Good morning. From the small island of Malta to a quite big and broad network, actually a global network with a European branch. I'm here representing the Global Eco-Village Network and of Europe, which is a branch of a global network of eco-villages. Eco-villages, for those of you who may not be familiar with the term, are what we call intentional communities, which means communities of people that by their own will and with a vision and consciously come together to design social and environmental systems around them and human settlements that are regenerative and give back actively to the environment where they are settled. As such, they've been existing, some of them, for more than 60 years. Have been for these periods of time experimentation grounds for a lot of alternative models and a lot of alternative solutions, mostly in rural areas. And now today I'm here to focus especially on something that is very crucial for us, because as such eco-villages has very often basically residential opportunities, so housing solutions. So I'm here to talk how we tackle the housing issues and how we work on that in the Eco-Village network. As I say, it's kind of a broad presentation talking about a European network. I will try to bring up a lot of case studies from the ground, and I will try to be in the time that I got allocated. So talking about housing issues, one of the main topics that come up is about land ownership and how sharing resources, pooling resources, and having models for shared ownership of land come crucial to create this kind of empowering solution for communities that can allow them to thrive and to have a good life, as you reminded us in the previous presentations. So in this sense, foundation, housing cooperatives, community land trusts are very effective models that allow us to do so, to reduce costs and to improve well-being, to improve the good life. This is, for example, a picture from Findhorn Eco Village. This house, if you're asking, is an old whiskey barrel, and I read in the chat there was somebody also from Scotland, so maybe they know about this example. This when we talk about housing, we will also want to focus on three fundamental aspects: affordable, sustainable, and inclusive housing. So, for example, talking about inclusivity in particular, one example that I want to bring is from this other community, from this eco village in Germany called Siebenlinden, because they perform really great in terms of inclusivity, in terms of allowing access to housing in their community to people with low income, single parents, refugees, elderly, young people, to become part of the housing cooperative that builds the Strobel houses that constitute most of the housing in Siebenlinden. The initial investment required is lower than 25,000 euros, which makes it very affordable compared to market values. And even there is a solidarity fund set up by residents themselves because they consciously want to include more diversity in their community, and therefore they want to support those who would not even be able to put up those initial investment to still become part of the community. And of course, this being set in a rural area of former Eastern Germany, you can really observe how this attracts population to this area and how this increases greatly the diversity in terms of social composition in this area. Another interesting example, talking not only about collective ownership, but also about pooling resources, is, for example, the Eco Village Tamera in Portugal that you can see in the picture. And what they have there is something that is not applied in all eco villages, not in all the community that are part of the network, but in some of them, which is something that we call a share economy. So really, the residents have put their economic resources in a pot, and they make collective purchase, and they are guaranteed a minimal income based on that for all of them. And of course, there is a lot of sharing going on, having collective purchase, then they eat together, but so much sharing, of course, means also reducing cost, means also making very affordable, and of course it creates cohesions, and it also fights loneliness, which is one of the rising problems that we see in a lot of rural areas. Talking a bit more, because we're talking about eco villages, so I would also like to bring a bit the attention on the sustainable aspects of the housing solutions that I'm presenting. And to do this, I'm presenting the example of Eco Village Bochel in the Netherlands that has been used using circular design principles and using sustainable materials. They used something called hempcrete, a large use of timber, and they designed it integrating passive solar principles to reduce as much as possible the need for heating and the energy efficiency. And they have the circular wastewater and circular waste management system. Basically, is a village that is designed around the concept of circularity, and this gave them also won them the most sustainable organization in the Netherlands in the 2021. Still talking about sustainability of building, I also wanted to mention that a lot of communities, a lot of eco-villages decide consciously, instead of building new, to refurbish and retrofit existing buildings. There are a lot of examples of eco-villages that are located in former touristic infrastructure, for example, former hotels. But this is a very unique example. It's an eco-village in Italy called Torre Superiore that retrofit a 13th century old village, an old medieval village that was in ruin, that was in decay. And they did this using environmentally sustainable materials and techniques, and showing how retrofitting can actually be more cost effective, but also reduce the carbon impact of building on a long-term period. Like, it has been demonstrated that retrofitting reduces emissions by half if calculated, compared with new building, if calculated on a 30 years lifespan of the building. And of course, retrofitting, conserving the historical heritage, it also improves the belonging and the identity of rural communities. This place is obviously a monument for all the surrounding community that lives around it. This, when I open this chapter about participatory governance tools, I want to say first that we're now going to the chapter about obstacles and challenges that we find for this kind of communities. And the first thing that comes to mind, and I will talk about it later, of course, is related with legal, financial obstacles. But actually, what we find, that what many eco-villages found out, what the network found out after years of experience, is that most of the time projects don't fail because of legal or financial obstacles, but they fail because of human relationship, because of the lack of collaborative skills, because of the lack of capacity to put up front a common goal. So there is a lot of work done in the network, and there is a lot of work done in eco-villages because of this. This is the example of Arterra Bisimodu, a community in Spain that has a set of tools like group facilitation to support all voices to be heard in meetings, like sociocracy, which is inclusive and governance system based on an effective and inclusive decision making. And then there is the CLIPS program. That is something that the network that Gen Europe has developed based on eco-village experience to support groups to navigate all these challenging situations. So I wanted to bring also this importance of social tools for having communities thrive, for bringing communities back together. And then, of course, let's touch also the financial aspects. But again, I wanted here to bring a success story from France. There is the cooperative Oasis is one of our national network members, because in most of European countries, there are national networks of eco-villages. So this is the French national networks. And thanks to a system of donations and tax relief, they were able to pool 9.4 million euros and to support with that 58 new projects in their country. Projects that were from a dozen of people to several hundred of people, like this eco-village de Purg that is in the picture is, well, maybe not several hundred, but definitely around 100, more than 100 people. And this investment is linked to a guidance process that they offer to the supported community based on this 6 principle that you can see in the slide. And this is, of course, to support the community, but at the same time also to guarantee the efficiency and the effect of the investment for the investors. Talking about legal obstacles now, we can see also some positive example. For example, in Denmark and Germany, where communal housing is legally recognized and the government offers loan support for co-housing projects. But at the same time, in most of other countries, we do face intentional communities, eco-villages do face a lot of obstacles. Most of them are related with access to land and housing. That is very difficult, especially where the ownership of the land is very fragmented. But also with restricting zone laws that don't accommodate the kind of mixed-use residential and conservation residential and agriculture that most of the community would like to implement in this optic of creating regenerative and not only the sustainable but regenerative relationship with the land. And also, most of the sustainable building techniques that are used do not meet national building codes that are in place at the moment. So I would like to conclude a bit saying what is the result of these years of experimentations, these years of learnings in these pilot projects, if you want to say, that can be considered eco-villages. The first thing is that all these values, all these approaches are not limited to eco-villages. They can really be adopted and applied in a big diversity of context, and that's what we're doing now, also to try to bring this to different contexts, to different kind of organizations. And also that working in networks and doing policy advocacy is crucial to scale this up because of all these obstacles that I was mentioning before. But the most important thing, as I was also mentioning before, is education, is learning how to collaborate, learning how to weave communities together back, learning how to be together, to collaborate on projects. And of course, the fact that this example of thousands of people or hundreds of projects in Europe and in the world just shows that community and people can be empowered, that the people are really the keys in applying the alternative models to housing, to good life, and to bring it to reality. So thank you very much. I just want to close saying that we're very open and looking forward for collaborating with all of you and to keep conversation on these and other topics that we work on. You can have a look at our website, at our social media, or write to me directly at the address that you see on the screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dario. Is there any question? Someone wants to raise their hand. We have a little bit of time for one question. Anything from the chat, maybe?
From the chat so far, only like congratulations on the very detailed alternative economic model focused on housing. We've been saying all the resources, so I think that the researchers from SERIGO team are going to be very busy looking at it for sure, and other colleagues and other sibling projects. Yeah, that I think that you gave a lot of food for thoughts, and especially with these latest messages on the policy advocacy and the importance of education.
Thank you.
Maybe I can ask one question then, very briefly. You touched upon it, but you touched upon policy and financial mechanisms that could better support, that are not there or are there, which are there that could better support these kind of models.
Well, the financial mechanism that I was mentioning, there is this example in France that we're now working to replicate in more countries in Europe. There are advanced studies already in the Netherlands and in Denmark. This is basically social financing model, is pooling resources, pooling investments for people that do want to invest in social and solidarity economy, and still have the guarantee that their money is not just lost. So I could speak much longer about this, but now I want to, and I'm trying to be short. About legal mechanism, there is a pilot project in Italy that is actually done in collaboration with RIPES Europe, the European network, also the European branch of the Global Network of Social and Solidarity Economy, of having legal recognition for intentional communities. That will be actually something that would be a game changer for this kind of experiences, because now all the legal solutions that all this community adopt, they're all different, but they're all a combination of NGOs, cooperatives, private property, and collective property, which is sometimes very complicated and doesn't support the scaling up of this kind of models. So the legal recognition, I think it will be crucial.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I think there might be more questions. Maybe we can put them in the chat, because I would like to give the floor now to Brian Smith from Social Farming Ireland. Brian, the floor is yours. You've already shared your screen. Perfect. You are muted for now.
Thank you. Sorry. So you're welcome. Coming in from Ireland, the Northwest. The weather's good here today, so I'm going to run through this very quickly. There's a lot in it. I work with Leitrim Development Company, which is an NGO charity company limited by guarantee. Our main role is social inclusion and rural development. We're one of about 30 or 40 of these companies in Ireland, and we cover a lot of different target groups of people: migrants, unemployed, long-term unemployed, young people, older people, women, people with mental ill health, disabilities, etc. So that's the context we operate in. We operate this project called Social Farming Ireland for the last 15, well, involved in development for 20 years. So I'm project manager. We're funded by the Department of Agriculture for the core funds of Social Farming Ireland. And our researcher, Dr. Mary Brennan, is actually on the webinar here. There's a number of people who work on the project. So I'll tell you a bit, excuse me, about what we are, what we do. So we offer social farms as a place where people get person-centered social support in their own community. The farm is not a clinical setting, it's a community setting. People participate in the activities that go on that farm on a normal basis. So we're reorganizing the natural assets of the farm, the people and the environment. So that's a nature-based intervention using the assets of the people. So we're looking at resource reactivation and asset activation, because farms have these things inherent, you know, that we're not reinventing, and these are part of what farms have been for millennia. So they have a social, personal and natural asset. So we're reorganizing them to provide support for people who need it. Those people who need it are in the community, and the farms are providing solidarity through that. So mainly people who are at risk of exclusion, people with disabilities, new communities, migrants to the community, people with recovering from mental ill health, older people with dementia, young people who are not fitting in school or employed or whatever. So it's within the community, and for these people who are in the justice system. So that's what we're doing on the farms. And I said before, we have a small team. This is a national project run across the whole not Ireland, but the whole of the Republic of Ireland. We have 5 regional development officers interacting with farmers and also facilitating the placements on farms. I mentioned our research and policy officer. We have national coordinator, and I'm national project manager. It's very much a person-centered approach focused on the individual who's going to benefit from the placement. Yes, we're very focused on the farms, but our core value, I suppose, comes from the individual who's excluded, or who has the challenges in their lives, and providing them with the services. Because of the issues in rural areas, we have decline in the rural farming economy. We've also, you know, services moving out of rural areas. So people find it, when they live in rural areas, find it much more difficult to access the person-centered approach of services that suit them and their lives. And people, because the populations are small, the needs are quite different. So in order to deliver on people's well-being and the well-being economy, you have to have multiple options that people can choose, and that would deliver on policy as well. So the policy in mental health is community recovery, disabilities, you know, delivering on the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. So that means empowering people to make choice and participate. So the farmers obviously are ordinary people providing ordinary support. They're not clinicians, they're not therapists, but there are many therapeutic benefits. We go through a process with the farmers to make sure that they are not taking advantage of people, that they're delivering the support that people want. So there's vetting, reference checks, And that's the quality assurance that it's safe, that there's no risk to the people who go to the farm, that they're not being taken advantage of. All these things could have happened in the past and have done. So we provide a governance as the project, we provide a governance to make sure that this happens safely and securely, and that the quality of the support that the people get on those farms is good. So really supporting people to live a good, ordinary life with good well-being, in the well-being economy, effectively creating that based on the farms and the environment, and using community development principles in doing that. So that's who we are. So, where are we? Sorry about this now. So this is the kind of things you see happening, and this is in a farmhouse around Christmas time. So the key elements there, you can see there's a social context. People on those farms are there for a short period or for small groups. There's no more than 3-4 people on the farm in a particular day. Obviously, the natural surroundings. People can be stressed by the clinical interventions, the medical model, and all this kind of thing. You know, we all know that getting out into nature can help us reconnect with ourselves, with what's happening, and then build from there. And of course, the activities on a farm are multiple. So you can experience many different things, from taking care of growing seed, taking care of animals, interacting in the environment. You know, there's many different things, cooking, photography. So there's a huge variety of things people can get interested in and can change how they view their own lives, and meaningful activities that they can get involved in and move away from maybe the challenge and focus on the challenge that they have in their lives. So that's how this begins to happen. And of course, the elements of it are there. So better well-being and mental health, connecting people socially, connecting them with others, but also with the environment and with themselves and their own, their own future and how they want to go there. Physical health and well-being, there's lots of physical activity. And of course, people develop new skills and can use the activities on a farm to build literacy, numeracy, etc. in small ways, and also to take on new interests. So the benefits are multiple across all these individuals. Is there a typical farm? No. We have large farms, we have small horticulture units, we have diverse types of farms, dairy, so the activities mainly vary hugely from farm to farm. I think the key there is the person, and their we would see altruistic farms, people, environmentally connected, community connected, socially conscious. Maybe have, like, nobody's lives in isolation, so farms would have had experience of disability, mental health issues themselves, because nobody lives in a silo where none of these things impact. So we see that that's more typical of the farms that come into social farming. They have some experience, they have altruism, environmental conscious. The farm is diverse anyway, and they're community connectors as well. They're connecting, and they're storytellers, they're educators, they're all these kinds of things. So it's the type of person as opposed to the nature of the farm. Okay, so this is connecting people within a community who may have to go to an institutional setting for a service, whether that's an integration service, education service, health service, social service. And this is mainly shortening that so that they can access the service and support they want. So choosing a different type of support, but in their own community, on a farm in an ordinary place. So that's where we're shortening the supply chain, rather than the institutional settings that we see in the past, like the large mental health hospitals where people were residential and they were getting treatment. People are recovering now in the community. So the short supply chain means that the farmer can provide a portion of that kind of recovery. In the case of social farming, the farmers are paid to provide the support. For their costs are covered, so their time, insurance, incidental costs they may have, and the placements are planned and commissioned on that basis, so the farmer's getting paid. People access this in their own community, so there is obviously logistical issues. And of course, people aren't entering clinical spaces, they're not entering institutional settings, so they feel more a part of community, and they can leave those labels behind, so disabled or mentally ill or whatever the labels might be, and they can participate as members of a community and be seen as ordinary people partaking in, you know, and participating in farm activity and building from that. Some people go on to do further training into employment, and people are looking for many different goals when they go to these farms. These are goal-placed and planned placements, so people set a set of goals when there are a set of achievements that they want to achieve from the placements. And of course, they're very flexible. Once the farm is in place, the farmer can provide many different types of support. We have people who have been in wheelchairs, non-verbal, and this, it can be a sensory experience for those people. And it can be for people who really want to get involved in hard physical work. It can be that as well. So it's a very flexible offer in the community and based on what people want. These three gentlemen here got involved in making these stools, and of course there was the sense of achievement in doing that. So that's the kind of thing again. Rural economic activity. So we see this adding to the multifunctionality of farms, reorganizing those resources, as I said earlier, providing local service, value chain locally, and that the farm is now functioning as a part of the community, as providing a vital support, building social solidarity and inclusion. These people are seen as outsiders for various reasons, and if they're participating and active in the community, like we've had people say, this is putting the culture back into agriculture, connecting people again, because farms are, and isolation was mentioned earlier, farms are disconnecting, with the being blamed now for, say, biodiversity loss, more intensive farmers, the climate issues. So this is a way to bring farmers back into the forefront in their communities, where people can go on and understand, I suppose, as well. And those people who are excluded can understand, you know, what farms do have to offer the community, and it's much wider. We know that the environmental goods that farms deliver, this is another element of it. So the main asset, I suppose, is in the people and the social capital that's generated here. Now I'm running through this very quickly. So there again, you can see some activity with animals on the farm, and a variety of activities go on in them, huge variety. So what are the main challenges we see? I mean, when you're, excuse me, when you're involved in social innovation and reorganizing assets like this, you're restructuring, I suppose, how services are delivered in the health and social care sector. You're asking them to interact with agriculture, and they're not generally bedfellows in some sense. So you're looking to the policy sector, or the politicians, the political system, to reform how these things happen. You know, when we started out, people said, you cannot put people with disabilities and significant mental health on farms. It's too dangerous. It's all this. So there is a challenge in that kind of thinking. And also in the policy and how, say, health and social care services are delivered, and to restructure and reorganize those and fund them in a different way so the farmer can be legitimately valued for what they provide. Because some people say, well, farms are getting enough in the subsidies. Why would you pay a farmer to do this? Because you're paying a farmer to do this because the farmer is delivering very good quality service that's of real value and impacts very significantly personally in these people's lives, but also in how the community sees these people, in inclusion, in solidarity, and in social innovation, in that, you know, this is a new income source for these farms that become more relevant. The farms are re-energized. We see intergenerational interest in farms like this, because it creates a vibrancy for them as well. So there's many reasons for it, but the challenge in getting that policy and funding to see this, to see the value in it, and also to place that value in paying for it. So we're looking at you know, structural reform is also the same. So for instance, mental health services were very hospital-based. They're now community-based. Disability services were very institutionally based here. They're beginning to deconstruct those and give people more choice in line with the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. And it's very slow. Many people with disabilities still have very few options compared to most of us in how they live their lives, in the kind of education system, the kind of work, and the kind of daily occupational. So we're addressing then in this project both the supply side and demand side in this, and there are inconsistencies in how you manage that, and that creates challenges, I suppose, for the developing social farmers. But again, it's very interesting work, and we're having success. Last year we had 10,000. We placed 1,000 people on about 160 odd farms, at 10,000 placement days throughout the 12 months, and it's growing year on year, exponentially. So we have about 240, 250 farms in our national network. We're collaborating with other networks across Europe, in the UK, Northern Ireland. Demand is growing, interest from farmers is growing. The Department of Agriculture here is very much on board. Health and social care, slowly. We're inputting to policy, even to government formation recently, looking at programme for government and how that might happen. So, and our farmers are also contributing that through the network. And we're looking at, I suppose, how we can help sustain farms and rural areas in that. We were involved as well, our researcher contributed to the EU CAP Network focus group on social farming that published in the end of 2023. So there's a link to it there. And that's looking at innovation in farming, and that report involved 20 different people involved in care farming, social farming across Europe. So it's a growing network there. And I suppose this is a farmer and two participants in a wet morning looking out over a lake here in South Leitrim, and it just goes to show inclusion works. And social farming works. So there's a lot more information on our website and from ourselves if you want to make contact as well. So that's a very quick run through, I suppose, what is social farming and care farming in Ireland.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you very much. I would like to thank our three panelists again, Christian, Dario, and Brian. I believe there is a question from our audience. Please, Sonia, the floor is yours. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, hello. Thank you. Thank you for the webinar, and thank you to all the presentations. Well, I'm Sonia Marcos from the University of Burgos in Spain, and we are the coordinators of the SIRA project. Well, in the SIRA project, now we are in a process of identifying and support social innovation and social economy initiatives in rural areas in our pilots, as you have presented today. Well, from my point of view, entrepreneurship in rural areas is an exercise in resilience due to all the difficulties that they have to face. And well, in fact, many rural entrepreneurs want to solve social problems in their environment, such as the lack of public services. And I think that they want to do it sometimes with a sustainable business model that is not based on the social and solidarity economy. In these cases, or there are some cases that there is a social innovative initiative and a sustainable business model, but it does not have a legal form within the social economy. And one of the current discussions in SIRA is what is strictly a social solidarity economy initiative in rural areas and what is not. What happens with these resilient and social innovative initiatives that are not according to the legislation of any of the different countries, a social and solidarity economy initiative? This discussion is related to whether or not to support these initiatives under the umbrella of the social economy and in the ecosystems of our projects. Well, I would like to know, the question will be if we consider these types of business models as alternative business models because they are social innovation initiatives and they are aligned with social, economic and environmental sustainability, but they are not social economy enterprises. I would like to know if you have had this conflict in your project. Thank you. It's a general question. It's not for any
Yes, well,
person.
I can say something briefly on social farming. Yes, there's
Yes.
always the way, you know, how do you structure this? How is best to structure how, you know, what is it, you know, or what isn't it? You know, so absolutely there's, and I suppose what you have to do is design and build. I feel with social farming, we're designing and building all of the time. You know, what will work best. And you know, you're collaborating with a network of stakeholders who have very different interests and very different values and very different views. So it is tricky. And until, I suppose, when you start, like we're investigating social farming for almost 20 years, and I suppose we're practically implementing it since 2015, so it's almost 10 years. You know, it evolves from one thing to another as well. And things change. You're not sure where it'll be in 5 years' time, if you know what I mean. So it is tricky, yes. And I don't have any answers, to be honest.
Thank you. I'm happy not to be alone in this concept.
I may chime in if there's time. I think this is a question of how are we looking at it. If we're looking at it as a whole economic system, like we need to move away from the capitalist system that we are in at the moment, and at the moment when we are in even worse times, so to speak. But the doing good business model is not something new, and I think that without sounding like I want to this and work, but research is very important, and all of academia is very important. But when we try to label things specifically, then we get into problems because of all the diversity, all the differences. In our case, we focused more on the social entrepreneurship side. So I work personally also in some other NGOs, but it's good to differentiate what one is doing, what the other is not doing, but in a broader scale. Social entrepreneurship is on the other side of all for-profit business. So there's purely for-profit business. Then there's the profit is needed, but we're doing good. It's a little bit cliche, okay, but that's all it is. And somewhere in between, and then there's also another point. There's the NGOs, there's non-profit organizations, and somewhere in between there's social entrepreneurship. It doesn't have to be well defined in a global context. Each country will do whatever they have to do. But this is the main thing, how I look at it. NGOs are there to solve a very imminent issue, problem, challenge, and help changing it or lessen the suffering. That's where vulnerability comes into place, and that's very much needed because I mean there's no arguing that NGOs are there for immediate help, but NGOs usually, and I say this with all due respect to everyone, and I work in a couple of those, usually by nature they don't change the core problem. And in my personal opinion, I'm of course biased towards entrepreneurship. A business model where people who we deem vulnerable, but in reality maybe we are the vulnerable society, where if these segments cease to do what they're doing, then we have problems. No farmers, no food. If we don't allow them and we don't give them the narratives and the language that they are empowered through entrepreneurship, then the problem will continue to perpetuate. The further issue then is will eventually be that a social entrepreneur will do something to change the problem, to change the core issue. When that happens, that you change the core issue and you empower the locals, your main reason for being as an entrepreneur ceases to exist. So you're out of business. So that's the dilemma between social entrepreneurship and non-profit businesses. Just my perspective. It's of course a long discussion. In Malta, we're starting to discuss better social entrepreneurship, but it's just one segment of the whole social economy system that hopefully we are heading to. And ultimately, as cliche as it may sound, it's about being kind and doing good. If we think of all those basic things in everything that we do in all layers, then hopefully we will be in a much better situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian, and thank you, Sonia, for your question, your remark. I don't know if you, Dario, wanted to react.
I would like to say briefly something, but if you
Go
allow me
ahead.
to, because I see we're
Go
already
ahead.
over time.
I mean, we run a little bit late, but I think it's nice to hear you as well as concluding words as well. So yes.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say that if we go to these macroeconomical narratives, I think we're basically going to this realm of the acts of faith. If the homo economicus exists, it's basically an act of faith, I think. But as I was talking about inclusivity, I think that all approaches are good, and all approaches have as a richness to bring, and to hear this diversity is I think is part of the solution. So, of course, as I was presenting a broad diversity of approaches, we do have a broad diversity of answers to the questions that the colleague just asked, but. Maybe I just mentioned that one of the criteria for eco-villages to be recognized, let's say, then we don't have the copyright of the names, and there are a lot of places that call themselves eco-villages without being part of the network, and perfect that it is so. But to be part of the network, we ask them to have some form of collective ownership, and this to be detached from profit. So to have a collective ownership that is for the common good. And also in a recent project where we're collaborating about creating a training for social entrepreneurs based on eco-village principles, we agreed with the partners in the consortium that, of course, social entrepreneurship can make profit, but the profits needs to be reinvested in the social goals of the organizations completely. So there are, and these definitions were not assumed since the beginning, let's say, but all the partners. That's why I mentioned it here. So just to say, I think there is a diversity of approaches, and I think that the chorus formed by this diversity is also what can allow us to find solutions that are long lasting. So I guess this sounds well as closing words. Thank you for giving me the space.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Dario, Brian, Christian, but also Francisco, Somaye, Poonam, and Cristina. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing with us. We are running late, so thank you for those who are sticking with us. There's another person I need to thank a lot is Patricia Martinez, who is my colleague, who made this agenda and webinar possible. Thank you so much for that, and thank you, Marisol, for all the support. I believe that now in the chat you are made aware of what's next is the SERIGO COP workshop that will happen on the 8th of May around measuring impact of rural social innovations, where we'll hear about very practical examples and practical tools to make social impact measurement a little bit more accessible and less frightening. So please join us. Join also our COP, visit our website. It's very easy through there to join the SERIGO COP, where we share relevant publications and events, information, and so on, and presentations. So please do join us. And what would be very helpful as well is if you could fill in our feedback form about our webinar today, which should be now circulating in the chat and will be circulating later on via email. And that's it for me. Thank you very, very much for being with us. I'm pleased to say that we had 80 people joining the workshop. A little bit less now, of course, as we are running over. But thank you again, everyone. And this is it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.